just kind of out and about today, and I seen this place. It's kind of like right across the street from Ponchovilla State Park, but it's some kind of shrine, so let's go check it out, see what we can find there. Okay, as you can see, it's pretty well grown over, but yeah. I don't know what it's a shrine to, but it's a shrine to something. Let's go get a little bit close and see what we see. I guess at one time that was real pretty, but oh, it does say private property, no trespassing, but I don't think we're doing any harm by looking, but yeah. It's kind of like the inside of it. It's got wind chimes, but I don't know. Found a little friend.
You like me? Yeah, you do.
He just came out of nowhere. Don't know where he came from, but only in New Mexico. But there you go, public bathroom. Let's go over here and check out the men's bathroom now. I think the men got the short end of this stick, but there you go, New Mexico rest stop. We're just kind of out running around today, so we're trying to find an old church, but yep, out here in the middle of nowhere land, so come on, let's go with me on my journey. Check this church out that I found. Apparently the story is a man bought it because it used to be an old schoolhouse, and he built it into a church for his mother, and he built it stone by stone. But let's go get a closer look and see what we see. That's pretty cool, isn't it? Look at the artwork in it. Pretty wild, isn't it? Now we're inside the building. This is what it looks like. I wouldn't say it's real safe, but here we are. Looks like you've had some illegal traffic right there. Somebody tried to clean the house with a vacuum cleaner. They didn't do a real good job, did they? Yep, just another abandoned building in New Mexico. Okay, we'll keep on going and see what else we can find. So y'all just come along, join us on our journey. Just out scouting around there in New Mexico. I know I say that a lot, but I don't know why I do, but I do. But anyway, let's keep on getting up. The man that apparently redid this schoolhouse church is buried right there. I'm gonna call it his catacomb, but oh, it does. Hopefully y'all can make that out right there, but I guess it's like his shrine or something. 1991, 1908, 1901. Look at the design on the roof right there, but this little wall right here, it's got all kind of different rocks in it. Judy knows more about it than I do, but look at those green rocks right there. She calls this a labor of love. Guess at one time this was a really pretty place. Check out the design right there. Pretty sweet. The things you can find in New Mexico. I'm just stuck on those poles right there. Got one on each side, and I've just been informed that one time where that brown board is, that rectangular board, there's a statue of Mother Mary, but apparently somebody stole it. But yeah, the church is kind of like the terrain, but that's just life in general these days. But I do love those light poles right there, or whatever they are. We're in a little town called Hacksheta, New Mexico, but I reckon this is downtown. If you look behind this, you can see the church, but at one time there was like 4,000 people living here when the mines were open. But look at that, some of these homes. There's 4 of them in a row. I'm gonna go over there and get a closer look of them. I bet you that house right there could tell you some stories, but just another town abandoned in New Mexico. Got an old busway over there, but yeah, we drove out here just spend the day running around. But it's really strange where these towns pop up and then they just die off, and now they're just old ghost towns, nothing to them. Town of Shakespeare, New Mexico, and we're getting a tour of a ghost town. But yep, this is it. Pretty cool. He's giving us a guided tour, but it's got different stuff. Used to be a railroad tracks behind us, and that's how they would haul stuff out of town. But that wagon right there is an original wagon. But look at the view of this town. And this here is the main drag of the town, but let's go over here and see where they're going to. Old wheelbarrow right there, but look at the design of those buildings. Pretty cool, isn't it? It's $10 a person, but it's, you know, it's pretty cool. It's a family-owned ghost town, so you have to call for an appointment, but it's got different stuff laying around. Wow. Pretty wild, isn't it? Is this our water right here? Water tank?
Yeah. One of two.
One of two?
Yeah.
Okay. Look at all working that brickwork.
No.
The chimney right there.
No. It's not nearly big enough for that. There are no trees out here big enough for hang people.
I know, but I'm picturing kids playing that way.
Okay, let's walk around front. Look at how they made this building. Just rock and mud, looks like to me. Let's head on inside.
That most of the roofs on these buildings were flat stocks, and you would line the ceilings with linen. And you'll see examples as we go through the various buildings.
Line the ceiling with linen.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild. But this is all it was. This was as big as they were.
This is the we had a couple of them that were a little bigger than this, but this is a very typical size saloon for that time.
Wow. You're right, Hollywood makes them look great, but
yeah,
pretty wild. Big beams right there.
Yeah.
What was this room again? I missed that.
This is the stagecoach station. This room was originally constructed in 1859.
And then the saloon was added on?
Added on, and then about 1871, they added the saloon on. And they also added the front dining room on at the same time.
Okay, cool.
Got some things on the table that you'd have around for the time. Stuff like a Dutch oven. I'm sure you've both seen a Dutch oven before.
Yeah.
What about a coal iron?
No.
The 1920s, 1930s waffle iron. This one was patented in 1922. I know that because it says it right on the lid. Washboard.
Oh, God.
You have to scroll down a little ways to find it, but it's
Is that an oven?
that is an oven. That was a kerosene.
A kerosene oven, huh?
Mm-hmm. Kerosene was the original fuel. Where, you know, Rockefeller made a ton of money off of that.
Yeah.
The original tycoon.
Yep.
One of them.
One of them, yeah.
Capitalism. Oh, wow. Oh, there's a loose right there.
There's the news. Yeah.
What was this, like the dining room right here?
This was the dining room.
This was the dining room?
Yep, it was added on during that first dining room, just like the saloon, to accommodate more stagecoach traffic. Now you can see it also served as the hanging room as well. The lack of tall trees in this area needed a place to stretch someone's neck. This became the room. We don't know how many people were hung in this room for sure. There are varying accounts depending on who you'd really like to believe. We do know for sure who the last two guests of honor were, though. They were Sandy King and Russian Bill Tettenborn, and they were both hung in this room in 1881. Russian Bill had arrived out here with the hunting party, and he liked his prospects, and he decided he was staying. Now, he must have been trusted because he was working as a claims reporter for some of the miners here. Unfortunately, a couple of those miners showed up here and accused him of robbing them out of their mining claim. Some very serious charges if your job was to record their claims. The local militia would get together. They decided there was some truth to the matter and decided they were going to hang him for this. Sandy King, he had arrived with the first mining boom. Like Curly Bill Brocious, he was hired by the mining companies to help protect their interests. And he had simply stayed around after the mining companies no longer needed his services. Sandy didn't do just one thing that was bad enough to get himself hung. It was an accumulation of things with Sandy. He had been a thorn in society for several years. The morning before he was hung, he went over to the general merchandise and he purchased himself a silk handkerchief. And in doing so, the clerk found it rather amusing that the tough cowboy was buying himself this silk handkerchief, so he was poking fun at him a little bit. Sandy, being the type of gentleman he was, didn't take very kindly to being made fun of and thought he would teach the clerk a lesson. When the clerk went to hand him that handkerchief, Sandy grabbed him by the arm and shot one of his fingers off. This was a bad mistake by Sandy. That clerk happened to be very well liked in town. Sandy, however, had been a thorn in society for several years. The local militia would get together. They'd already decided they were hanging Russian Bill. They got to thinking about all the things that Sandy had done and just figured they might as well hang Sandy at the same time. That way they could just throw him in the same hole.
Right.
The digging out here not being easy, the one standing rule they did have in town is if you killed someone, you had to bury them. That did help keep a lot of the indiscriminate killings down. No one wanted to have to dig the hole in this hard, rocky ground. These two gentlemen, however, would hear about the little party they were about to be invited to, and they would make things much worse. They would jump on two horses that didn't belong to them and try to ride out of town. Horse thievery, as we know, also was not tolerated in the 1800s.
Hanging a fence.
These two would be gathered back up, they would be brought in here, and they'd be hung. This would be a terrible place to be hung. This is not a drop you and break your neck. This is a pull you up and tie you off, or just kick the chair out from underneath you. The local militia members would all just stand around in here and wait till these two men quit struggling. Once these two men quit struggling, these guys would all go back to their homes. John Evanston, the stage keeper, would just go back to his bed in that back room. And this is where they'd leave the men hang. They wanted to make an example of these two. What they didn't plan on, however, was a stagecoach rolling up, and the passengers getting off and coming in here expecting to get something to eat.
Oh my God.
These passengers would first have to help cut these two men down and drag them outside before the tables could be pushed back in. On the stagecoach was a stringer. Either of you familiar with what a stringer was in the 1800s?
No.
Not me.
Stringer was a reporter in the 1800s.
Oh, okay.
They would travel the trains and stagecoaches and collect stories, and when they got to a telegraph office, they would string the stories back. He got to bugging John about the two dead men. He wanted to know what these two guys did, and he wanted to know the full details of this hanging. Well, let's face it, this was technically a lynching. Remember, there's no sheriff here. There's also no judge. These gentlemen didn't get proper trials, and John didn't want to talk about it because he didn't want to get anyone in any trouble. And John's busy trying to do his job by trying to feed the other passengers here, and that Stringer's following John around badgering him. After a while, John gets mad because this guy won't leave him alone. Turns to the Stringer and says, "Russian Bill stole a horse?" And of course he did. Sandy King was just a damn nuisance. We don't think he asked very many more questions after that.
Yeah.
And you think that would be the end of the story. Several months later, though, they would get a letter from the Russian consulate in New York inquiring of the whereabouts of Russian Bill. He really was Russian, and his mother was inquiring of his whereabouts because she had been receiving his letters from Shakespeare for a couple of years, and he suddenly quit writing back to her. She wanted to know if anyone knew what happened to her son. Again, this being a lynching, and them also not wanting to hurt her feelings either by saying we hung your son, they would put their heads together and come up with a letter that just simply stated, "Dear Madam, we regret to inform you, but your son has died of throat trouble." Not a lot.
So they would actually bring people in here and hang them and then take them down and eat in here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. I'd lose my appetite.
You ate when you got the opportunity back in that time.
Yeah, I noticed the people were most of the time are puny looking.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, that's pretty wild.
That's a cool story.
The items in the display case were all found in the dirt here. The pictures of our last wedding we had here, Keith and his wife Heidi got married here in 2005. Keith was one of our reenactors, and now he's currently one of our tour guides.
Wow.
Pretty cool.
You wouldn't leave
Pretty
now.
view out here, isn't it?
They'd hang you.
Pretty rough living out here, I'd say. Pretty rough. Just another old building. It's pretty
Mr.
cool.
Coyle had a sense of humor about him. When he was busy renaming the town Shakespeare, this street became Avon Avenue. And this building would become the Stratford. This is the Stratford Hotel. Some of the famous people that have stayed in the building. President Rutherford B. Hayes, him and his entourage took over this building for a whole night when he toured the West. He was the first sitting president to tour the West. George Hunt, Arizona's first governor, before going on and becoming governor of Arizona, used to wait tables in the building as a young man. He'd often talk about it during his speeches. Lew Wallace, territorial governor of New Mexico, Union General, also author of the book Ben-Hur, used to stay here. And Billy the Kid would wash dishes in this building after breaking jail in Silver City after robbing the Chinese laundry and escaping through the chimney. He needed traveling supplies to make it into Arizona. He was too small to work the mines, so they put him to work washing dishes and sweeping floors for a couple days before he moved on. He hadn't killed anyone at this point. He was just a petty thief at this point. I walk you around the building. I don't take you upstairs because of the condition of the building, but we'll walk around the main floor. And I think we'll go in the left side first and come back off the right.
That gun on his hip is for real too.
Their family,
Paula.
Emma would grow up here. Emma would later get married and become Emma Marble Muir, and she'd become the first historian for this town because this is her history. She lived it. She'd go on and write several articles about the history of the town, some of them for New Mexico Magazine, which are on display in our museum. John Evanston, the stagekeeper, he would get ill in 1887, and the Marbles would try to care for him in that next room. He died in that room of heart trouble. His picture's up on the wall on the right, and the bed's the bed he died in.
Wow.
Most of the furniture in these two rooms actually belong to the Marbles.
Oh, check that table out.
What are these?
The rebar is what's squeezing the buildings.
Ah.
Squeezing this building. Keep it up.
This room right here.
Yeah.
How many people you talk about living in this room?
4.
4 people. Wow.
Parents and 2 daughters.
Parents and 2 daughters.
That's actually a big living quarters for that time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, up above our heads are 4 bedrooms. Each one of those bedrooms would have 2 or 3 beds in them. When you stay.
Picture there is John Stafford. He's the man that owned this motel, but this is actually his motel room, and this is actually the bed he died in. Hopefully y'all can see it, but pretty wild. Dude's giving a real good tour too, so if y'all enjoy Ghost Town, y'all need to come check it out. This right here is the dining hall of the motel. Look how long those tables are.
Rowdy place to eat.
Yeah, and the kitchen's very neat. You can see what's left of the cloth ceiling.
Pretty cool. This is a kitchen area right here.
You can get your eggs in boxes like the one on the windowsill packed in sawdust. Cardboard and plastic didn't exist at that time. Stove's very neat. You see how it has a warmer up top. It also has all these neat little flaps to help keep stuff heated as well. That cupboard would serve as your refrigerator. Adobe's an excellent insulator. You throw a door over that would help at least keep things cooler than room temperature.
Cool. How thick are the walls?
They vary depending on, which wall, but pretty thick.
Yeah, I can see that.
Wow. That was a refrigerator, huh?
Yeah. There was no chance of getting ice out here.
Pretty wild.
What was in this box over here?
We do believe that was used to store pies.
A pie safe.
At one time, Billy the Kid was a dishwasher here when he was just a petty theft criminal before he killed anybody, but pretty cool.
Land down there beside where the building was.
Yeah. You have to excuse me. The geologist in me is making me spin down to look at this rock and see all the pyrite in this rock. You see all these sparkly things? Pyrite.
What is
A lot
it?
of people.
The left side of this building was constructed in 1856. The right side was added on in about 1858. The Army used this building until the telegraph became prevalent, and then they abandoned the building. And then after that, families would move in and use this as a home.
Oldest building in the whole town right here. Just looking inside, you're not allowed in here because the roof caved in, but he said that's the original roof up there, so pretty cool. If you like Western history, you got to come out here and try this. Look at the table. It's built.
Here's a yucca stalk.
Okay.
This one is out of that roof that collapsed.
Okay.
This piece of yucca stalk's almost 170 years old. See how tough it is?
Yep.
See how light and tough that thing is?
That's amazing.
Did you want to hold it?
How light and strong that is. I never
How
knew
did
that
it
about
survive
yucca.
that long?
It's had tin over this roof.
Oh. That's pretty wild.
I'll have to remember that when I'm driving through and I see those tall yucca stems growing.
There's a yucca right out the window right there. You see the stalk sticking out of it.
I love to watch them when they're in bloom. They're really beautiful.
I just think that's pretty wild. I've really never seen anything like that before. Huh.
My dad was
It was made by a blacksmith, you say?
Yeah.
Pretty cool silver.
I found these results.
Miners brought their ore to have their ore evaluated.
Okay.
Well, this building was ready to fall down in the 1980s, and Manny got some people together. They'd re-pour the walls back out to the proper thickness and redo this entire building. You want to see some rocks? Here's some rocks.
I figured there would be some in the outstairs building.
There
I'm
you
not
go.
getting in front of the camera. Copper metals.
She's camera shy.
Copper minerals. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is this where they weighed it?
Oh wow.
What's this?
Well, there's several things in there. Yeah. Magnetite.
Looks like a mad chemist.
Some siderite in there.
And then he would put it into a crucible.
Right.
Take the crucible, stick it in the U.S.A. furnace there, and he'd heat it up and melt it down. Then he would extract the various minerals and metals from one another by using things like arsenic and cyanide and mercury.
Or an iron bar.
Is that why all that stuff is behind you?
Yeah.
That's what
Then
they call a
then
fire
he-
assay.
Then he weigh each of the minerals and metals up in this scale. After he separated them all from one another, he'd figure out how many ounces of each you could expect to get per ton of ore. Then he'd write you out a report on your mining claim. You would have that report to take to present to maybe other potential investors or even a bigger mining company you're trying to convince to buy your mining claim from you. That piece of equipment there.
So what they would do, they'd go find something, the mineral or whatever, and then they'd turn around and sell it.
Sell the claim?
Sell the claim, yes. A lot of times, yes. If you had your own little independent mining claim, you probably didn't have the resources to mine it all yourself. You
Okay,
wanted
that's
to get paid
that.
by the mining company for finding this claim.
Okay, that was
And
my
you let them
question.
worry about mining it, and you go find another one.
Okay.
That press there, you ever seen one of those? That's a letter press. That's a copy machine for the time.
A letterpress.
Yeah, and if you needed a copy of, say, this report that was made out for you, that paper we used in the 1800s was thicker than the paper we use today, and you also wrote with the quill. The quill will leave a lot more ink on the page than your ink pen of today. If you needed a copy of this report, you'd take a sheet of onion skin paper and you would dampen it. You'd lay it over the report, you'd slide it between those two plates and you'd squish it together. Some of the ink would transfer from the page to that onion skin paper and give you your copy. Now it'd be backwards, of course, but you can see through onion skin paper, so you just turn it over.
Yeah.
How about this rock? Be the blacksmith shop for the National Mail and Transportation Company, which was the last major stagecoach line before the railroads put them all out of business. This building was lost in a fire in 1997, and Manny rebuilt this building, and the hay barn there that we just walked by without going in was also rebuilt. That was also lost in the fire, and the general merchandise. All three of these buildings were lost in that fire. But Manny did a wonderful job of restoring this blacksmith shop in the hay barn. I don't know how many blacksmith shops you've seen, but this is a pretty amazing one.
My dad had one. He was a blacksmith. This is a bellows. Look at the size of
Yeah,
this bellows.
that's a giant bellows, yes.
I've never seen one that big.
Yeah.
What is this right here?
It's another forge. There are two forges there. You got the stone forge and you got the metal forge.
Wow.
Wow, look at all those tools.
I know.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the most well-stocked blacksmith shop I've ever seen.
Yep.
So each tool had its own purpose, I would say.
Yeah. And you see how the windows are open?
Mm-hmm.
Manny designed how the windows are open. That gear over there in the corner opens and closes all those windows at once.
Oh, wow.
Manny was his father-in-law.
10-ton block and tackle used for moving equipment around in the mines. Manny and a friend of his rebuilt this one.
Holy cow.
Look how thick that is.
Yeah. So Manny's last project, you're standing right beside him.
Uh-oh, well, hang on a minute.
Pretty wild.
This?
Yes.
Oh!
This is Manny's bear trap. It looks
Holy
like a dinosaur trap, but he made every piece of that thing.
Holy cow.
That's a bear trap?
It is a
Yes.
bear trap. It's never been set. We just leave it hang there. Neat item.
That's the biggest one. I've seen bear traps before, but that's the biggest
That's
one
the
I've
biggest
ever
trap
seen.
I've ever seen, yes.
I can't believe all these tools.
Yeah.
Are they the same tools or are they all different?
Well, I mean, they're all a little different. I mean, blacksmith most of the time had to make most of their tools.
Right.
Yeah, they did. I'm just wondering if the bear around here are that big, the catfish must be huge. Look at that treble hook there.
That's used to keep you from dragging the trap away. You could buy it out of the general merchandise, but you'd have to come down here to pick it up. They're not going to store it in their building.
Of course.
And in 1993, there was a movie filmed here called Doc Holliday, the Man, the Legend. And when they were filming that movie here, they needed a place that looked like a mine. This was their idea of a mine. So they took one of our ore cars from over there, which I made sure I pointed out, and moved it over here and put a set of tracks under it to make it look like a mine for the movie. In reality, this is just a small powder magazine.
Small powder
Really old,
magazine.
Dynamite shack. That's what they called it in later years. That's what we called it when we were.
Yeah, there's a fake stick of dynamite in there as well.
I'm glad it's fake because it is. After all these years, it would be so unstable.
Yeah, it's fake. It's
What was in the kegs?
powder, black powder.
Black powder. Into the tour of Shakespeare to Ghost Town, but if y'all are interested, the information's behind me. The dude had a lot of knowledge, and, you know, like he said, he owned the property, so he knows it well taken care of. But it's in Lordsburg, New Mexico. We came from Deming. Took us probably about a half hour and a half to get here. But anyway, if you're in this area, check it out. If you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up. If you'd like to support my channel, I'll put the links below in the description. Have a great day. Headed back to camp. There's information right there if y'all want to check it out. Bye. I just left the town of Shakespeare, the ghost town, so this is just a little bit of extra footage of a cemetery. I don't know, for whatever reason, I just think they're cool. To me, they're not morbid or anything. I think they're very colorful and people laid to rest, so I figured I'd get a shot of you. This is the Lordsburg Cemetery, but we're headed back. Talking about getting hot and death. Pretty cool, though. Just another one. 1907 to 1981. Check that one out right there. Pretty cool. I'd say most of these are Catholic graves. Check that one out right there. A lot of cool stuff in cemeteries. Just, it's so colorful. I know it's death, but it's so colorful to me.